What's up, buddy fighters? So for today, we're going to have a deck profile for Star Dragon World, mainly Prism, Crecer. Are you guys excited? Let's go. Let's start with the monster. First, we have Quintessence Crystal Dragon Athora Revival Buddy. Call cost, pay 3 gauge and put the top 2 cards of your deck into its soul. If this card is on your center in the soul of a Prism Dragon, all cards on the field cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. And get power plus 5000, defense plus 5000, and you cannot take damage by your opponent's card effects. It also has the ability of Crystal Bright, counter. During each player's attack phase, you may pay 1 life. If you do, call up to one size 3 with a Thora in its card name from your deck on the top of this card without paying its call cost, and shuffle your deck. You may only use Crystal Bright once per turn. Now, for our second monster, we have here Prism Crecer Midfielder Athora Arontes. So, pay 3 gauge and put the top 3 cards of your deck into its soul. This card and Prism Crecer item on your field cannot be destroyed, and their soul cannot be dropped by your opponent's card effects. Counter. During each player's attack phase, choose a Prism Crecer item on your field. You may drop a soul from this card. If you do, stand the chosen card. If this card is stand by a card effect, deal 1 damage to your opponent. Next, we have Calvados SD. Calvados SD ability, if you would call a Prism Dragon from your hand, the gauge cost written and its call cost is reduced by 2. When this card enters the field, you may drop a hand card. If you do, put up to 1 Prism Dragon with a Thora in its card name or up to 1 defense item from your deck into your hand. Shuffle your deck. Next, we have White Crystal Dragon Calme. All Prism Dragon monster on your field cannot be put to other areas by your opponent's card effects. When this card is dropped, if a Prism Dragon is on your field, you gain 1 life and draw a card. Our next monster, Prism Crecer Defender Amarone Recova. At the start of your attack phase, if a monster with a Thora in its card name is on your field and you have a Prism Crecer item equipped, for this turn this card gets triple attack. When this card attacks, you may put a card from your drop zone into the soul of another Prism Crecer monster or item on your field. If you put, you gain 1 life and draw a card. This is a really good support monster for PS Crecer. And our next monster, a staple in the Athora world. This is Flying Crystal Dragon Sheldre. Ability, when this card enters the field, you may discard a card from your hand. If you do, put up to 1 defense from your deck into your hand and shuffle your deck. Our next monster, last monster, we have Prism Crecer Defender Riesling Cross. Call cost, pay 1 life. When this card enters the field, put up to 1 Prism Crecer item from your deck into your hand and shuffle your deck. Counter, during your turn, you may put this card from your field into the soul of an originally size 3 Prism Crecer monster or a Prism Crecer item on your field. If you put, stand that card. So this is all the monsters of PS Crecer. Now let's go over the spells. First, we have the Iris Lilac. You may only cast this card during your turn. Cast cost, drop a soul from a card on your field. Counter, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, put one from among them into your hand, and put the rest into the gauge. You may only cast Iris Lilac once per turn. Next, we have 2 copies of Star Believer. Cast cost, put a soul from a card on your field into the drop zone. You gain 1 life and draw 2 cards. You may only cast Star Believer once per turn. Next, we have 2 copies of Future Palette. Now, this is a great card. Cast cost is pay 1 gauge. It has counter. Put this card into the soul of a buddy on your field. If you do, draw a card. And if this card in the soul of your buddy, that card gets power plus 5,000, defense 5,000, and soul guard. And it cannot be destroyed, leave the field, or be rested by your opponent's card effects. Next, we have Rivals Forever. Cast cost, pay 1 life. Put 2 monster from your deck into the drop zone and shuffle your deck. Then draw a card. And for this turn, all originally size 3 monster on your field gets power plus 10,000 and critical plus 1. You may only cast Rivals Forever once per turn. Our next card, we have 2 copies of Dispersion. You may only cast Dispersion if you have a Prism Dragon on your center. Cast cost is pay 2 gauge. You draw 2 cards. Next one will be Gemologist. You may only cast this card if you have 6 life or more. Its ability is put the top card of your deck into the gauge. Put 1 size 3 Prism Dragon from your deck into your hand and shuffle your deck. You may only cast this card once per turn. Next is Practice is Everything. Cast cost, pay 1 gauge. Ability is put up to 2 Prism Dragon monsters with different sizes or Prism Dragon item in total from your drop zone into your hand. You may only cast Practice is Everything once per turn. So this is a good get card from the drop zone in case you don't have any size 3 or item in your hand. Now next one, this is one of the OP cards in the Prism Crecer or Prism Dragon deck. It is Eternity Ring. Now I know everyone knows Eternity Ring at this point, but put this card into the soul of a Prism Dragon monster on your field. If you do, put the top card of your deck into the gauge and draw a card. When the Prism Dragon with this card in its soul attacks, destroy a card on your opponent's field and deal 1 damage to your opponent. Next, we have the defensive spells. First, we have the Facial Chains. You may only cast this card at the end of the 3rd battle during your opponent's attack phase. Counter, end the opponent's attack phase. The next one will be Crecer Direct Shoot. You may only cast this card if you have a Prism Dragon on your field. Counter, for this turn, all cards on your opponent's field gets defense minus 10,000 and damage dealt to your opponent by your card effects cannot be reduced. Then put this card into the soul of a Prism Dragon monster or item on your field. Next one, a very OP card also from the Prism Dragon deck. You may only cast its Asterism effect. You may only cast this card if you have a Prism Dragon on your field. Cast cost, discard 2 cards from your hand. Counter, choose and use one of the following 2. For this turn, all monsters on the field cannot be destroyed, or until the beginning of your opponent's next turn, you cannot lose the game. Next, we have Master Domination. Choose a card on your field, and for this turn, give it power plus 2,000 and penetrate. Then if you have 3 or more soul and cards On your field, draw a card. If you have 5 or more for this turn, give the chosen card double attack. So this is an enhanced card. Next, we have the only item at the PS Crecer deck. We have Prism Crecer Forward Diamond Spike. Equip, pay 2 life, put the top 3 cards of your deck into its soul. This card and all Prism Crecer monster on your field cannot be returned to hand, and their abilities cannot be nullified by your opponent's card effects. Counter: during each player's attack phase, choose an originally size 3 Prism Crecer monster on your field, and you may drop a soul from this card. If you do, stand the chosen card. When this card stand by a card effect, draw a card. It also has Penetrate and Soul card. Our final card, of course, the impact card of the PS Crecer. It is Prismatic Soleil Drive Shoot. You may only cast this card during your opponent's final phase. If you did not take damage during your opponent's turn, a Prism Dragon with a Thora in its card name is on your center and your opponent's life is 5 or less. Counter: deal 5 damage to your opponent. This card can't be nullified and its damage can't be reduced. If your opponent's life would become 0 by this card, it cannot be changed by your opponent's cards. Unrevivable.